Welcome everyone, Marcelo is my name. I am the niche fragrance collector. I love all things niche perfumery, and I also love words. I feel that there is great power in words. I mean, just look at, I'm gonna get religious on you now. John chapter 1, verse 1. That encapsulates the power of word. Now we came out of lockdowns, or the whole world did, early 2022, and I genuinely thought, hand on my heart, that I was never ever going to travel again. At that stage, the world was still like, go away, everybody was dangerous, you know, people were, were scary. And I actually thought my traveling days were done, but I still dreamed. The other thing that I discovered is that the NFC channel, because I was creating so much content, was eating so much of my hard drive space that I had to buy additional hard drives. And I called this portable hard drive Paris, and I called this portable hard drive Milan. I did that on purpose because I wanted to, every time I opened up my computer and start, I could see Paris, because I wanted to go back to Paris, and I definitely wanted to go to Milan. So these were beacons for me. These were like, this is what I want my future to hold. Have a look at this. I had an opportunity to go to Paris this March, created a production on beautiful boutiques throughout that city. On that same trip, I had a chance to go to Milan and had an opportunity to go to Essence, and it was at Essence that I discovered this particular brand. And what drew my instant attention was the name of the house, which is Rhodes. In a flash, evoked for me adventure, travel. This is my desktop wallpaper for my computer. What I love about it is the fact, one, it's a road. I'm all about travel and moving and exploring. The fact that it goes around the bend, you know, what is around that corner that I want to discover. In coming back to Australia, I discovered that LUSSO Collective actually have this brand here in this country. For those who are interested, I'm gonna put a link below. You can go across the roads if you're an international, or if you're an Aussie, you can actually check out the LUSSO Collective website. You'll find that the collection is huge. They have, it's very expansive. I did a video in which I broke up one from each of the collection, the core, Africa, and Asia. And these are three that I'd really love from that particular collection. Today, what I want to do is go into it much deeper. So I want to show you some other fragrances, but so that I can create a bit of a rhythm for you guys and makes it easy for you to understand maybe what will resonate with you. The Michael Edwards fragrance wheel is a great tool because if you know where you live, it makes it super easy to go and hunt down that particular fragrance and see if it resonates with you. I'm also going to utilize this, and this gives you a bit of an evolution of how I feel the fragrance emerges on my skin. And then a recommendation that if you like these particular fragrances, then you'll also enjoy whatever it might be that I might be speaking about. Now, I'm going to give you a warning, and that is, if you try to smell it from the bottle, you're not going to get an indication. In most cases, I can actually pick up a bottle and open the lid and I can smell the fragrance, and I go, oh yeah, I can detect what that fragrance is. For some reason, when I do it with anything from Rhodes, I'm not detecting the full effect of the fragrance. Then you'll think to yourself, you know what, I'm going to spray on blotter card. Not bad, good idea. Notice there are no blotter cards in front of me, and that's because, and hence why I rolled up my sleeves, they activate best on skin. And this is tried and tested, not only with me, also members of my family, my editors. You can spray it on a blotter card, you'll get an indication, you'll be like, it's not bad. You put it on skin and it explodes, it comes alive, it becomes absolute magical. So my recommendation is that when you do discover these fragrances, put them on skin, see what you like, and you'll find that the activation of that fragrance will become a lot more powerful than just on a blotter card. Let me begin with Club Tokyo. The Asia collection, I find, is very floral accented. In a lot of cases, men are very reluctant to wear a floral fragrance. I'm actually wearing today Club Tokyo. What I love about this fragrance is the moment you spray, you get this beautiful fruity rice component. And it's interesting because there's no rice. There is, see, when I first discovered this, and even to this day, even though I know that there's no rice note in there, I detect like a rice jasmine nuttiness to the fragrance. It does remind me, I mean, the name of the fragrance is Club Tokyo. It does remind me of pristine Tokyo. As I mentioned, I do love traveling. One thing that I discovered when I was in Tokyo is that the air almost feels clean. Now, this is a massive metropolis. So if I compare Tokyo with New York, both huge metropolis, and I say this with love, there's a griminess to New York. There's a something sassy in the street, in the air. There's something else going on there that's a little bit more animalic, I would say. Whereas with Tokyo, it's pristine, it's clean. How do you put an olfactory signature to order? But that's what I almost feel that Tokyo has. And I feel that Club Tokyo encapsulates that very essence. There is this beautiful, crisp, clean vibrance that comes from this particular fragrance. I love the evolution of this fragrance. It starts off with that fruity rice coming through it. It does go into a jasmine, white floral place, and finally it settles into a beautiful earthy floral fragrance. Now, that early note, not rice. In actual fact, it's Asian pear. The one thing that I love about that is that it's defined in the notes as Asian pear, not just a pear note. And I'm gonna say that that definition is absolutely correct because this is not a pear note that I'm familiar with. As I mentioned, it does have another component in there, and I defined it as rice. It's not rice, but it's definitely this Asian pear mixed in with that jasmine to create this beautiful, unique, fruity, floral, almost nutty opening to it. It's magic. This is an easy fragrance for a man to wear, for a woman, comfortable, easy fragrance. Now, I do want to point out, when I'm wearing Club Tokyo, the women in my family, they pick up on this fragrance very quickly. For some reason, on a man's skin, the notes from this fragrance have a particular way of emerging and it smells amazing. I found that the longevity on this fragrance is about 6 hours. I feel that the projection and also the sillage is on a moderate level. If anything, it's a confident moderate. It does have nice push on it and the sillage is quite beautiful. The next one that I want to talk about is Digital Daze. If you want to know more about this fragrance, have a look at the episode that I created here. This is a much deeper dive into this fragrance. As an overview, it does fall into a soft floral category. I feel that the key note in this fragrance here is this floral sandalwood component. I love that the opening of it has a fruity tang to it. In the video, and I don't want to steal my own thunder, I basically said that there was like an apple, red apple, green apple component to it, yet there's no apple in the actual fragrance. One thing that I've discovered in all this collection is I almost feel that don't look at the notes. This range of fragrances, the notes are almost a distraction. And especially for those people who love blind buying, I'm gonna say red alert on that because what you're seeing in the note construct is not necessarily how the fragrance actually performs. As I mentioned with Digital Daze, I do get, and it's not just me, it's not just like an inception thing. I have sprayed this. I did speak to my editor, again, have a look at that video. She was convinced that there was like an apple component to it. Again, no apple, but this fragrance here as a beautiful, woody, floral fragrance is pure magic. Men who are not comfortable with florals, don't jump in just yet to this one. Let me recommend to you Flower Mountain. I'm gonna spray on this one. So Flower Mountain is magic. This was an instant love. I detected it in the air just then. The moment that I sprayed it, when I first was testing, it was instantly, I'm like, oh, I know that. There's a note in there that I know. And I picked up something that I'm like, I like that. It uses a licorice accord. I've discovered that I'm a huge fan of that aniseed, licorice, fennel kind of note in a fragrance. And I love it in all its iteration. It could be really deep and herbal, or it could be more caramel-like. Here, it blends it so beautifully with florals. I find that this fragrance, when it opens up, has this beautiful herbal floral-like quality to it. It then migrates to a mature florals. And as I was preparing, I'm like, the first thought that came to my mind was mature florals. But what does that actually mean? And if anything, I feel like it has this, it's not a soft floral, it's not a floral. There is, I don't know, it's a maturity to it. There's a deepness to it. It almost goes to that ambery place, but finally, when it's settled, it goes to a floral amber base. I know that when it dries down into the base, it does have like a leather accord in wood, but they don't overpower that herbal component, that licorice note that's in there with the florals. If anything, all of it, there's a beautiful harmony to this fragrance. I know the name is Flower Mountain, and it would give you the perception that this is a more of a floral fragrance, but in the way that I see it is almost like, I guess, climbing the mountain, you're at the peak. There are flowers around there, but as you're coming down into the base of the mountain, you're getting now into the more drier parts, the earthier part of this mountain. The licorice note never goes away. It's very detectable at the very beginning, beautiful herbal, just this wonderful aniseed component to it. And then as it dries down, as I said, it does go into the florals and the woods, but that licorice sort of weaves in and out throughout the life of the fragrance. I find that for me, the longevity on this fragrance is at least 5 to 6 hours. The projection and sillage for me is more into the moderate to low. Starts off fairly confident and strong, but it does come back now more to be around me. This has become my favorite for going out. This has become an awesome fragrance for the cooler months. I don't see this so much as a summer or a springtime fragrance. This is definitely autumn, fall, into winter. For those men who are not comfortable with florals, this is a great place to begin. The florals have been toned down and the ambery wood-like components are a little bit more pushed forward. For men who like, I guess, more woods in their fragrance, this is perfect. The next one, This Weekend, and the name is perfect. This has become a big hitter in my family. Just about, I almost feel like I smell this in stereo. I smell it everywhere, whether it's the men of my family, the women of my family, the children, they're all wearing This Weekend. And I feel that, as I mentioned, the name of it really captures the essence. It is happiness, it is joy, it is the anticipation of this weekend. So when are we gonna have fun? This weekend. When are we gonna stay in and get cozy by the fireplace? This weekend. It has all of that. Not necessarily a summer fragrance, but it's not necessarily a winter fragrance either. For me, this is whatever you want it to be. Again, don't smell it from the bottle because I don't know what it is. I sprayed earlier. This Weekend. And the dry down is glorious. The opening is magic. For me, this was instant love, hence why it's such a big hitter in my family. Let me explain how I see this fragrance, and then I'll tell you how the notes evolve. For me, it starts off with this beautiful floral component, this bright happiness, but definitely floral, and it's magical. Finally, when it settles down, it goes into this wonderful woody floral place. Men who are not comfortable with florals, This Weekend is magic. Women who like florals but not too high and want to cut down because of the woods and things of that nature, This Weekend. So men who are not comfortable with florals, I need you to block your ears for a second. The magic in this fragrance is tuberose. Tuberose is in the heart. And as I mentioned to you earlier, the way that I see this fragrance evolving, starts floral, goes citrus, woody floral on the base. The fact is, like all or most fragrances, it starts off citrus. It has a beautiful citrus opening, has a floral heart, and then finally woods in the base. But for some reason, I don't know why, either my nose is broken, but I get the florals on the opening. For me, that tuberose emerges out so beautifully. And then it goes into that citrus, and finally, as I said, as it dries down deeper, it goes into that woody floral place. There's a slight sweetness in the fragrance too. And in looking at the notes, there is vanilla. I love the fact that it has patchouli, but yet you would not detect it. I mean, again, my wife, who has a radar for patchouli, not a huge fan of it, has not said a word. I mean, and I'll go one more. Whenever I smell this, and I smelled it before when I sprayed, I actually see my whole family. So Sandra definitely is wearing this. I also see my children wearing this. As I said, for me, this fragrance in my household is in stereo. I smell it everywhere. I found that the longevity on this fragrance is 6+ hours. The sillage and projection is moderate to high. It has wonderful push. And it's a fragrance that captures happiness. This is something that makes you, on smelling it, and it could just be that maybe I've already connected some beautiful olfactory memories to this, because for me, this is happiness. This fragrance, and I haven't been wearing it just on weekends. This is a great office fragrance. This is an everyday fragrance. This Weekend. Gentlemen, great place to start. If you want to start your floral journey, This Weekend is awesome. That tuberose note is a big player in this fragrance. It does a beautiful job. You can always detect it all the way through. The next one that I want to talk about is HARMATTAN. I did do a video on this earlier. I've included it in this lineup so that we can continue to go across that wheel. This falls into the woody amber section. One thing that I've found with all the roads is that they do an awesome job with florals. They actually play with florals in such a beautiful way, except HARMATTAN. The floral in here, which is a rose, is a very delicate but very distant rose that's in the heart. And when I say distant, I can just detect it. Things that are taking center stage are things like cedar and the patchouli. There is this dustiness, there is this spiciness to it. If I could define this fragrance quickly, for me it would be a dry, spicy, woody fragrance. There's even an accord in the base, which is a dry amber. I don't know how you create a dry amber, but when you smell it, there is a very dryness to it. HARMATTAN is the name given to the northeasterly wind that happens between December and January in Africa. And the idea is that it's dry and it's dusty. And really for me, it really captures that really well. This is much more of a masculine energy fragrance. So women who like more woody, spicy kind of fragrances, HARMATTAN is absolute magic. Interestingly, there's no oud. And a lot of people, and I've read some comments and they say, oh, it's an oud fragrance. Unless it's not noted or listed in the notes, but if you look at the notes, there's no oud in there. This oud component comes from this interplay between the cedarwood, the patchouli, and the black pepper that's in there. It does create, well, I'm guessing it creates that kind of scent profile to it. Also masculine energy fragrance, wonderful as an office fragrance. I see it more as an evening or even a winter fragrance, not so much for summer or spring. I think it might be a little bit too heavy. Boom, let me move on. I Am Dance. This is part of the Africa collection and one that I've enjoyed wearing. I love the fact that Danielle Ryan has defined the Africa collection to be sunshine, to be bright. I love the vibrance that the bottle actually has. I Am Dance is one of those fragrances which has this absolutely wonderful creative evolution to it. I find that all the fragrances in the collection are not linear. Where they start and where they emerge to where they finally dry down are all different places. And this one, in my opinion, really accentuates that. Now because I sprayed earlier, here we go. So I'm on the dry down. I'll tell you about that. On opening, it is the most vibrant, alive. I mean, if this is meant to capture like the essence or the magic of Africa, the energy, the vibrance, and the fact the name of the fragrance is I Am Dance, it's the explosion of that music coming forward, the exuberance of the dances, all the things are happening all at once. It's citrus, it's alive, it's vibrant. It goes into this beautiful fruity component. There's apple and pineapple, and you can get this wonderful fruity vibe from it. And finally, it dries down in a completely different place. It goes into this patchouli, cedarwood, almost dryness to it. There is a mustiness in that patchouli. It's magical. From where it starts, that vibrance, that citrus, the fruits, to where it dries down, two different places. One of my editors is a dancer. And before she went dancing, actually, she said before I started filming, she goes, I haven't sprayed anything yet that I don't like. So it gives you an idea how impressive this whole collection is. And not only these ones, but the others that I have. She was going dancing and she thought, I am dance. Yes, I am dance. So she sprayed this. She mentioned to me that she sprayed at midday. It was 7 o'clock at night and this fragrance was still popping on her. Now I realized that you're moving, your body is sort of generating heat. The fragrance pushes itself out. But she said that as she was dancing, this fragrance was just emerging and she's thinking to herself, I am dance. I love the fact that the fragrance is this exuberance, citrus, happiness. However, it does dry down to more of a woody base, and I love that too. So it doesn't stay in this fructose happiness up here. It does come down to this more woodier component to it. There's a lot more depth to this fragrance, but there's still a vibrance and energy that stays in here in amongst those woods. I find that the longevity on this fragrance is 6+ hours with its projection and also its sillage in that moderate, but then it does come down to a low. All right, last one. Now I spoke about AFROPOLIS. I did a boozy lineup and I included AFROPOLIS in that collection there. What I love about this is this glorious gin, lemon, citrus opening that it has, but there's something else about this fragrance. And I didn't talk about it in that boozy lineup. The dry down on this baby is something else. I mentioned in that boozy lineup that I do love gin-like fragrances, although that gin note, the juniper berry, the citrus. What I do find though in a lot of gin fragrances is that they leave you really quickly. So they start off very bright, we're super happy, that little bit of that boozy component, those herbal aromatics are in there, but then it just goes. If you like that gin component to it, AFROPOLIS is glorious for that opening. And that's what I've got right here. I've got this juniper berry, this herbal-like component to it. Citrus is popping, but it's the dry down that you're looking for. The fragrance dries down in this most wonderful blonde wood, but with a marine accent. So I find that it starts off very beautifully vibrant, gin, citrus, goes into this woody, bright woods kind of place, and then finally settles into a marine-like quality to the fragrance. It does have a woody base, but with a marine accent to it. There are some marine fragrances that you can almost taste the salty water component of it. This is more salty air. This is more like being at the beachfront. The one thing that's impressive about this fragrance is that the only floral that is noted is iris. What I've discovered, iris has a powdery-like quality to it, whereas I feel that there are more florals than what are listed here. The only one that listed is iris, but it's not that I get a white floral component to it. Anyway, I get more florals out of it. It's not like a soft floral from up here, but I feel like there are more florals at play than what is actually listed in the notes. Awesome fragrance for summer. It's vibrant, it's alive. It's something that the more you sweat, the more it projects. I feel that the longevity on this is 6 hours with projection, and also sillage being in the motor. It does have a beautiful push. So there you have it, the awesome collection from Rhodes, a sense of discovery, and hopefully I covered quite a bit, so it gives you a sort of piques your interest as to what this house is all about. Men who might be a little bit reluctant with florals, this is a really great house to begin to explore. They're not too over-the-top aldehyde kind of florals in there. They do play beautifully. Again, I've been wearing Club Tokyo. As I've been doing this, at the moment, I'm popping with a million fragrances. It's magic. Club Tokyo on a man is pure magic. And as I said, in my family, when I'm wearing this, the girls are detecting it. It's an awesome fragrance to be going out with. And I think it's that Asian pear. There is that slight pear jasmine component. Just magic. Thanks everyone. We'll see you guys all on the next episode.